Hey guys! Yeah, it's not Friday yet, not time for the Transformers reaction vid, but that's okay because this video has nothing to do with Transformers at all. Lately I've had something else on the brain, in addition. And that is Les Miserables. Yes, movie that came out last year. I got it for my birthday. It was this past week, and it was one of the gifts I got, and I've just been kind of had the bug, the lamest bug, as it were. So I thought, hey, why not do something cool with that? So what I've noticed as I've gone around Tumblr looking up lamest stuff, because that's what I do as a college student, you go straight to Tumblr with anything, is that a lot of people seem to know surprisingly little about the actual story, which is understandable because Les Miserables is called the brick for a reason. The sucker is 1,400 pages long. So when you're making a 2.5-hour movie, there's stuff you're gonna have to crop out. You know, the whole character's plot line stuff is lost, and even I'm not getting the full story. You know, I even don't know all of it because I haven't read the full version, but I do happen to have an abridged copy right here. So I tell you what, this is my whole brand new treat. I feel kind of bad about reading the Harry Potter novels, and I don't think I'm going to do that anymore because Harry Potter is copyrighted, so I could potentially get sued for a lot of money for just reading this for free. However, this was written almost 200 years ago and is public domain, so no one can sue me. Ha 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 ha. So yes, for all of you who have always wanted to know the story of Les Miserables, or at least a good chunk of the story the portion significant enough to be in the abridged version, I will read it to you so you don't have to do any reading. Yes, and I'll try to make it, you know, interesting. I know I have seen the date. I know what day this video has been released, and I promise you, this is not an April Fool's Day prank, okay? It is totally not. I don't like April Fool's Day. It's sort of a holiday that gives people an excuse to be jerks. I mean, it sucks. So yeah, abridged version, short. It's only 600 pages. That's like less than half. Like way less than half. So, only gonna read a short selection. Might read more later if I feel like it. Anyway, so my particular copy is split into 5 books. I think they all are, but anyway. I think the full version is 2. So, the first book is titled Fantine. And first chapter of that. The chapters of this are really weird because, like, they don't have numbers. It just, like, has a chapter title and then sometimes there's Roman numerals. So the first chapter is called An Upright Man. I'm sorry took so long to get to it. This is a very worn copy, as you can see. I really like this book. Don't judge me! Okay, An Upright Man. Here we go. In 1815, Monsieur Charles Francois Bienvenu Muriel was Bishop of Digne. He was a man of 75 and had occupied the bishopric of Digne since 1806. By the way, there's a lot of French words in this book, so if I pronounce anything incorrectly, tell me nicely in the comments. Thank you. When Monsieur Muriel came to Digne, he was accompanied by an old lady, Mademoiselle Baptistine, who was his sister, 10 years younger than himself. Their only domestic was a woman of about the same age as Mademoiselle Baptistine, who was called Madame Magloire, and who, after having been the servant of Monsieur le Curé, now took the double title of femme de chambre, of Mademoiselle and housekeeper of Monseigneur. Monsieur Muriel, upon his arrival, was installed in his episcopal palace, I think that's how that's pronounced, with the honors ordained by the imperial decrees, which classed the bishop next in rank to the field marshal. The mayor and the president made him the first visit, and he, on his part, paid like honor to the general and the prefect. The installation being completed, the town was curious to see its bishop at work. The bishop's palace at Digne was contiguous to the hospital. That's the word. The palace was a spacious and beautiful edifice built of stone near the beginning of the last century. The hospital was a low, narrow, one-story building with a small garden. Okay. 3 days after the bishop's advent, he visited the hospital. When the visit was ended, he invited the director to oblige him by coming to the palace. "Monsieur," he said to the director of the hospital, "how many patients have you?" 26, Monseigneur." "That is as I counted them," said the bishop. The bishop ran his eyes over the hall, seemingly taking measure and making calculations. "It will hold 20 beds," said he to himself. Then raising his voice, he said, "Listen, Monsieur Director, to what I have to say. There is evidently a mistake here. There are 26 of you in 5 or 6 small rooms. There are only 3 of us, and space for 60. There is a mistake, I tell you. You have my house, and I have yours. Restore mine to me. You are at home." Next day, the 26 poor invalids were installed in the bishop's palace, and the bishop, was in the hospital. In a short time, donations of money began to come in. Those who had and those who had not knocked at the bishop's door. Some came to receive alms and others to bestow them, and in less than a year he had become the treasurer of all the benevolent and the dispenser to all the needy. Large sums passed through his hands. Nevertheless, he changed in no wise, that's seriously the word, it seems odd, but whatever, his mode of life, nor added the least luxury to his simple fare. On the contrary, as there is always more misery among the lower classes than there is humanity in the higher, everything was given away, so to speak, before it was received. Like water on thirsty soil, it was well that money came to him, for he never kept any, and besides, he robbed himself. It being the custom that all bishops should put their baptismal names at the head of their orders and pastoral letters, the poor people of the district had chosen by a sort of affectionate instinct, from among the names of the bishop, that which was expressive to them, and they always called him Monseigneur Bienvenu. Bienvenue, by the way, is the French word for welcome. Get it? In 1815, he attained his 76th year, but he did not appear to be more than 60. He was not tall, he was somewhat fleshy, and frequently took long walks that he might not become more so. He had a firm step, and was but a little bowed, a circumstance from which we do not claim to draw any conclusion. Gregory the 16th, at 80 years, was erect and smiling, which did not prevent him from being a bad bishop. Monseigneur Bienvenu had what people call a fine head, but so benevolent that you forgot it was fine. When he talked with that infantile gaiety that was one of his graces, all felt at ease in his presence, and from his whole person joy seemed to radiate. His ruddy and fresh complexion, and his white teeth, all of which were well preserved, and which he showed when he laughed, gave him that open and easy air which makes us say of a man, he is a good fellow, and of an old man, he is a good man. At the first view, and to one who saw him for the first time, he was nothing more than a good man. But if one spent a few hours with him, and saw him in a thoughtful mood, little by little the good man became transfigured, and became ineffably imposing, his large and serious forehead, "Shield me with your forehead!" rendered noble by his white hair, became noble also by meditation. Majesty was developed from this goodness, yet the radiance of goodness remained, and one felt something of the emotion that he would experience in seeing a smiling angel slowly spread his wings without ceasing to smile. Respect, unutterable respect, penetrated you by degrees, and made its way to your heart, and you felt that you had before you one of those strong, tried, and indulgent souls, where the thought is so great that I cannot be other than gentle. As we have seen, prayer, celebration of the religious offices, alms, consoling the afflicted, the cultivation of a little piece of ground, fraternity, frugality, self-sacrifice, confidence, study, work, and a bunch of other $5 words, filled up each day of his life. Filled up is exactly the word, and in fact, the bishop's day was full to the brim with good thoughts, good words, and good actions. Are you feeling inadequate yet, listeners? Nevertheless, it was not complete if cold or rainy weather prevented his passing an hour or two in the evening, when the two women had retired, in his garden before going to sleep. It seemed as if it were a sort of rite with him, to prepare himself for sleep by meditating in presence of the great spectacle of the starry firmament. Sometimes at a late hour of the night, if the two women were awake, they would hear him slowly promenading the walks. He was there alone with himself, collected, tranquil, adoring, comparing the serenity of his heart with the serenity of the skies, moved in the darkness by the visible splendors of the constellations and the invisible splendor of God, opening his soul to the thoughts which fall from the unknown. In such moments, offering up his heart at the hour when the flowers of night inhale their perfume, lighted like a lamp in the center of the starry night, expanding his soul in ecstasy in the midst of the universal radiance of creation, he could not himself perhaps have told what was passing in his old mind. He felt something depart from him, and something descend upon him, mysterious interchanges of the depths of the soul with the depths of the universe. He would sit upon a wooden He would not sit upon that. He would sit upon a wooden bench leaning against a broken trellis and look at the stars through the irregular outlines of his fruit trees. This quarter of an acre of ground, so poorly cultivated, so cumbered with shed and ruins, was dear to him and satisfied him. What was more needed by this old man who divided the leisure hours of his life, where he had so little leisure, between gardening in the daytime and contemplation at night? Was not this narrow enclosure, with the sky for a background, enough to enable him to adore God in his most beautiful as well as his most sublime works? Indeed, is not that all, and what more could be desired? A little garden to walk, an immensity to reflect upon. At his feet, something to cultivate and gather. Above his head, something to study and meditate upon. A few flowers on the earth, and all the stars in the sky. That is the first chapter. That was 4 pages, and I'm already out of breath. Can you see how this book was expanded to 1,400? So yeah, I'm gonna start off with that and then read the next chapter, which has considerably more pages. It's actually kind of scaring me. But I will read that one tomorrow. So, adieu, and join me for Dragonkeeper19600 reads Les Miserables. I'm excited. I hope you are too. You better be excited.